In the middle of a great storm, in the ocean, Alejandro decided to be in his room, reviewing the manuscripts. He found a scroll where there was a reference to a mysterious island, in which a game of death was held in tribute to the legendary Minotaur, where the participants had to enter a castle with different routes. This means that after passing the entrance the participants will be completely lost. The worst thing is that there are always different traps and challenges to solve, until reaching the main room where the evil monster waits to have fun with its prey until it can eat it. Suddenly the medallion begins to shine, but this time no hologram appeared. The light simply absorbed it until Alejandro lost consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes, Alejandro found himself on a mysterious island, completely alone. Suddenly something unexpected appeared in front of him. It was a huge castle, which was the same one he had seen in the manuscript. Without having any other options, Alejandro went to the castle, thinking that he would probably find the answer there if he had arrived there. Once inside the temple, Alexander was impressed by the decoration of the place, as it looked like everything but a labyrinth game. Walking down the hall, he would soon realize that all this was simply a trap to catch him, since at the bottom there was an imposing painting of the legendary monster. Suddenly the floor split in two and Alexander fell to the bottom. When he woke up, Alexander found himself in a small room, with the statue of the Minotaur forged in gold. Right at its base there was an inscription. Alexander had already read it in the manuscript. It was obvious that to overcome the game he would have to have several skills. Just behind the monument was the entrance to the labyrinth. Alejandro began to walk slowly until the first trap was activated. A part of the ground came loose and Alejandro had to jump in time to avoid falling into the void. A little further ahead Alejandro meets a group of people who were hiding in that place. They were other participants of the game, who were there for a long time. One of them told Alejandro that when they entered the labyrinth, they were a large group. Unfortunately, there are very few left, losing hope of getting out of that place alive. Continuing with the tour, Alexander decided to follow the route traced by the manuscript, despite the others warning him not to follow it because it could be very dangerous. On the other hand, Alexander was full of confidence due to his previous knowledge, so when he reached the next marked point, a new trap was activated. This time a huge wall appeared right behind him, leaving him trapped. Remembering the instructions, Alexander proceeded to move the symbol of the Minotaur on one of its walls with his hand, until it opened, giving him way to the next level, where he proceeded to run to the next point, since touching the ground would activate the next trap, which began to throw cutting discs from different parts. After observing how the entrance to the next level began to close, Alexander began to move quickly until he jumped to overcome it, reaching the next point. After reaching the next point, Alexander was in a sacred room. In the middle there was a being with a red cape and hood, sitting on a throne. On each side were two statues of Minotaurs. The entity began to recite the same words that were in the inscription of the first statue of the Minotaur, which recited, "Never dare to get between a Minotaur and its prey, not even from the front, only from behind." Immediately one of the walls opened and the two Minotaurs began to open their eyes, coming to life. At that moment Alexander knew that he had to flee before becoming their prey. When he reached the corridor, a Greek soldier was waiting ready to attack him. When he stopped, Alexander only had two options: face the soldier or turn around and confront the Minotaur. Either of the two would be at a huge disadvantage. So at that moment he remembered the words of the entity, along with the instructions in the manuscript. So Alexander turned to his right and pressed the symbol of the Minotaur, so the wall moved and Alexander was able to move to the next side, leaving aside an intense fight between the soldier and the two vestments. When he resumed his path, Alexander saw how different beings appeared in different places, and every time one of them chased him to attack him, he simply ran towards the Minotaur, pressing the symbols to escape, leaving them at the mercy of the terrible monsters. Suddenly, Alexander noticed how the beasts had separated. When following one of them, it began to move in different directions until it found its next victim. Unexpectedly, the Minotaur found the group of people that Alexander had seen before. Panicked, the participants knew they were lost, since nothing could save them. However, something began to shine on his back. It was a hole in the center. Remembering the graphics in the manuscripts, Alexander took one of the swords of the fallen soldiers, and carefully threw it towards the hole in his back. Upon entering the hole, the Minotaur fell to the floor, turning into dust. At that moment the others were celebrating what had happened, but Alexander himself alerted them of the situation and that now they should take care of each other. Upon hearing the screams of the second beast, Alexander ordered them to go in the direction of the main room. He also warned them that whatever happened they would not stop until Alexander defeated it. So they ran away screaming and making noise, hitting the walls in order to get the attention of the creature, which happened. Moving the walls quickly, they managed to reach the central room. Only the Minotaur caught them right at the entrance. Filled with panic, the participants wondered where Alexander was, but the beast suddenly fell to the floor, face down, turning into dust. Right behind it was Alexander holding a sword. Immediately the room began to move, moving to a secret recreation room, where a mysterious voice told them that they had won the game. Suddenly the entity appeared and personally congratulated Alexander for his courage, but above all for his cunning, since he always anticipated every obstacle, which allowed him to leave victorious. Behind him he sat the golden box, which opened. On the lid appeared a spinning medal with the sign of the Minotaur, and just below appeared an imposing golden figure of the Minotaur, forged in gold, carrying his legendary armor with his axe. The figure was standing on a fine diamond base with golden edges.